This week I'm using a piece of cherry that I picked up at a local antique store. There were some tools and other miscellaneous items being displayed on this old, dusty, dirty piece of wood, which turned out to be a nice slab of cherry. So I inquired about it and I was able to purchase it. So this is just a 10 by 10 chunk of that slab. It's a real nice chunk of wood that has been obviously drying for a long time. So there's no issues with it at all. There's no rot, no punkiness. It's just real solid, beautiful cherry. Once I've routed out the pattern, I like to go back over all the edges and smooth things out as best I can. And then I'll go over it with sandpaper. And if need be, I'll even take chisels to it just to define edges. So once I've got it to where I want it, I pour in the resin. It's just dark green with pearl. I used a powder pigment this time instead of liquid, just because I wanted the leaves and the berries to have texture. Stick around to the end of the video. You'll see a little bit more of that star. And this cured for 24 hours. I used a worm screw to mount the bowl blank onto the lathe initially, just to work the sides and the bottom of the bowl. For safety's sake, it's a good idea to use the tailstock to support in this type of situation, but I didn't want to damage that resin inlay in any way, and the worm screw had a very tight hold on this wood. So I proceeded without it. It worked out okay. Right off the bat, I noticed the shavings coming off of this bowl were really hot. Really hot to the touch. Even though I cut this round on the bandsaw, it's still not perfectly round. So that's always the first task, is to try and get the blank as balanced as possible by making it round. And here I'm just marking for the mortise, which I cut to about 3/16 of an inch deep. which is very shallow, but the resin itself is only 7/16 thick. And I sand it to 1,000 grit, and then I apply that OB Shine Juice, courtesy of Captain Eddie Castelin. I sure have learned a lot from him over the years. And it's time to check out what some of my very talented subscribers have made. Congratulations, Colonel Simon. This bowl turned out really nice. Stump made this beauty. Right up my alley. I love this one. Gary from The Papa 1947 on YouTube made these beauties. Good work. I really enjoy seeing what y'all are making out there, and I'm happy to share it. You check my video description from my email if you want to send me pictures of anything you've done. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of my subscribers. I've had some unbelievable growth on my channel over the past few months, and it's all because of you. I really appreciate it. You're my motivation and driving force for keeping these videos going. For those of you that are watching and haven't subscribed, please do. It really helps me out. All right, enough of that. I know right about here that I'm getting fairly close to the resin, so I want to start being less aggressive, which is why I'm doing some shear scraping here. Just taking a little bit off at a time, and there's the color. How about that? Now I know some of you are thinking, why don't you just use a scraper instead of that bowl gouge? Well, that's a good point. So I finished up the interior with a heavy round nose scraper. And then I sand up to 1,000 grit. So I wiped off the dust and moved on to the next stage. I'm just taking some redheart. I ripped it down to 1.25 inches, and then I cut 16 segments. Now here's a trick that most of you know if you're segmented turners. But if your angle is a little bit off on your saw, when you do your glue up, you only glue half at a time. I should say 2 halves, but you don't connect the halves. You separate them with dowels. Put the band clamp on, and those dowels will ensure that both halves glue up perfectly, and then all you have to do is sand down the ends of each piece just a little bit to get rid of that bad angle, and then glue the whole thing together, apply it to the project, and you're good to go. And here I just used the tailstock as the clamp to glue the ring onto the bowl. I think in all of my turning experience, the most beautiful shavings are from RHumphrey. These wood shavings are just gorgeous. And yes, I'm saving them. And once again, I sanded all the way back up to 1,000 grit and applied that shine juice. Shine juice, about 3 coats of it, just worked perfectly on this piece. I want to thank everybody for watching. If you've come this far, stick around to the very end for a little reminder of what Christmas is really about. I'm pretty happy with that. Semper Fi. Hallelujah and Merry Christmas.